So here we got a guy who's got two first names, Alex Norman. He is it's funny, isn't it? But two first names, Alex Norman, makes me remember that very easily. He is an entrepreneur, a founder. He's sold his company. He's taken some of those proceeds. He's invested into other companies. He's worked for large companies, and now he's in charge of something called AngelList in Canada. Are you familiar with AngelList? I'm sure he's going to get into it. Yep. And he also is the director of Tech Toronto. So this is a guy that's educated. He's gone to McGill. He actually has an MBA from Wharton. So he's put a lot of intellectual capital into this. He's put a lot of his blood, sweat, and tears. He's an entrepreneur and an investor, and he's got two first names. So here he is. Welcome, Alex, to the stage, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
Where's that?
Good morning.
Just going to talk about how to grow your business. So before I start the presentation, just quick question. How many of you actually have a business right now, have started something? Can you show of hands? Okay. How many of you plan on starting something in the near future? Okay, cool. So I'll quickly go through this, and then if you have any questions after, please don't hesitate. What I'm going to do today is basically explain a bit who I am, so you know why I'm up here. But then basically what I want to go through is a few things about marketing that people don't explain. I think if you go on the web, in your marketing classes, there's lots of conventional wisdom. There's a few things I've learned over the last 20 years which get ignored but really will set your company up for growth. Just so you understand my perspective, I'm a very analytical person. I went to McGill and Wharton, did finance and tech, worked at Lehman Brothers and McKinsey, where you basically think everything in strategic, logical ways. I started a company that got to just under 10-figure revenue when we sold. Now we're in an organization called Tech Toronto that went from 0 attendees to about 10,000 attendees last year. We'll have 20,000 attendees this year. And I run AngelList Canada, which is a social media platform for startups, but also helps startups find employees and raise funds. So basically, the big takeaway here is, for half my career, I was thinking very corporate, very structured, and then I went to work at startups and help grow companies where you have to be a bit more fluent in how you think. So, just out of curiosity, how many people here know Product Hunt or AngelList? Okay, so a few of you. So both of these are quite large companies. Those are two of the logos up there. Tech Toronto and HomeSav are companies I started. All of these companies had hundreds and thousands of users shortly after launch. AngelList has something like 10 million profiles. Product Hunt every day has 100,000 people come out and check out their website. But what most people do is they think about, when we launch, who's our customer? Day one, we're going to start going to get customers. All these companies and these organizations, what they did beforehand was build a community. AngelList started off as a blog. They were a blog for 2-3 years before they actually started and launched a product. Product Hunt was an email to founders. So basically, many people think the way to be successful is have a great product, a great idea, great marketing on day one. A lot of successful companies and entrepreneurs spend their career building a following, building a community, really understand who they're marketing to. So when they launch a product, when they first go out there, they have that support already built behind them. Another advice you'll hear a lot is choose one metric. In the startup community right now, everyone says you should have one metric that determines what your success. The big mistakes lots of startups do, a lot of founders do, is they choose a very obvious metric that just reflects what they think of financial performance is. So they go and say, hey, revenues are the ultimate metric. This year I want to make 5 million in revenue. I think I've spoken to a lot of people earlier today, and the first thing they tell me is, hey, I've got a company, we've done $50,000 revenue this year, next year we want to do $150,000, and that's how they measure success. I think that's great for short term, but companies that have growth and focus on growth, pick a metric that's unique to their business. Medium chooses the number of minutes read a month. Something that really reflects that you're adding value for customers will help you determine what you should do and is important for the next slide. Understand how that metric works. So again, lots of advice is let's focus on revenue, let's focus on one metric, maybe number of eyeballs, number of users. but to make sure that, that is not how you drive it. So like, for example, let's look at medium. They choose number of minutes read. They then figure out, okay, what if to get the number of minutes read to be successful, what are the other metrics that drive that and grow to that? So it's number of pages viewed, number of articles created, average length of minutes. So they can break down that metric and understand how each activity can drive towards that. And then basically everyone in your organization should be driving towards that one metric and understand how they're doing it. So if you were to look at Zappos, for example, they're famous for knowing customer service. I don't know, customer service will do anything and everything to make you happy. So, if you look at that from an outside perspective, you go, how does this help them succeed? How does that get them to their revenue targets? Well, their metric they were measuring was customer happiness and their NPO score. So what percent of customers wanted to come back? So they could justify having their customer service team spend and do anything for their customers because it improved the NPO score and encouraged people to come back. So here's the biggest mistake I've seen over the last 5 to 10 years. I've invested in quite a few startups. Usually where I come in is help with marketing and growth. We get fascinated with one channel. When you launch a company, you'll see something like Snapchat or Facebook or Twitter can help you grow, help you achieve success. Over time, there's only so many customers you can get from one channel. That's why you see lots of startups right now advertising on TV. That's why traditional companies go to social media. If you want to build a world-class company and you want to see success, you can't rely on one channel. Find that channel that's going to grow, but find alternative ones. I'll give you an example. At HomeSav was one of my companies. We were a home decor and furniture e-commerce site. We drove at the beginning a third of our traffic from Facebook. It was free. We invested a lot of time on it, but over time, Facebook, now you can't do anything for free on Facebook. So we had a portfolio of different channels. I think from a marketing perspective, you should always have a mix of the following three. Owned media, which is the stuff that you own. So it's your website, your blog, your email list. Earned media, which is PR, word of mouth, and paid media. So that's search engine. It could be search engine marketing. It could be billboards. But I encourage you as you build your companies to have a portfolio. Have 10, 15 different channels you're trying. Have a rationale behind them, and invest in 1 or 2 that are really working. But keep another 7 or 8 that show promise. Along the same lines, you should have a framework. Again, where you spend your time, you should have hypothesis, you should have an estimate of how successful something will be and what it will cost, and then prioritize ones you think you will spend time on. And the final thing I'll say is, when you look at metrics from startups, you'll see an average. You'll see the average cost to acquire a customer. You'll see the average lifetime value. That hides a lot of success. One channel may cost a lot more to get customers, but you'll see the lifetime value of that customer is more. So when you're looking at numbers and looking at averages, and this is when you go to raise money, every investor will say, okay, what's your lifetime value from this channel? What's your customer acquisition cost? There hides lots of truth there, and you should be be splitting it up and looking at every channel on its actual contribution basis, and it could cost more than average, but it might be worth having. Thank you. Any questions?
We do have questions.
Hi, my name's Dominic. My question is in regards to the portfolio you mentioned with the paid, earned, and owned. What are some examples of companies that have that portfolio you mentioned that is essential for growing your marketing efforts?
I think, so I'll take a step back. I think when you're first starting out, you should find one channel that works for you and ride it. The second you have some success, so what happens, why does that first channel work for you, is you find your customer, you really understand them, and there's the early adopters. And the early adopters in that channel will come to you cheaply, will come to you and interact with you, and eventually there's less of them. So any company that gets beyond, I think, the initial success will have multiple channels. I'm just trying to think of one offhand that you may know. Well, if you look at Shopify, is a perfect example. You know, I think Toby was presenting earlier today, and they'll have many different paid marketing channels. And so in the paid marketing, I know that I've seen them use affiliate, they've used paid search engine marketing, and I'm pretty sure they use Facebook ads. On the earned, they do an annual contest every year where you can win a time with, I think it's Tim Ferriss, a bunch of famous people, right? So that's another distribution channel because I'll get them, because they're riding off Tim Ferriss's popularity, they're running off the PR behind that, and then on the free they have they actually use their own platform to find other ways to sell new products. So right now they have Shopify Capital. So they're going to put in front of you, in front of a mailing list, people saying, hey, we think you need money to run your business, and that's another way to sell it. So it's not a very detailed one, but Shopify definitely uses all three. And I think you can go through any internet company, any startup, or any company that has traction, they'll quickly diversify. And the key thing about the portfolio is you may have one or two channels you're putting all your money in, but over time, they won't work as well. So for example, what we did is we used Facebook a lot extensively at the beginning, and it was 50 to 30% of our traffic came from there. But what we found is our target was 30 to 40-year-old women that had basically owned their place and wanted to furnish it. At the beginning, we got them really quickly, really cheaply, but after time, we sort of satiated the place. So then we were experimenting with House and Pinterest, and we knew both of those would work, and we started ramping them up when we saw the returns from Facebook were diminishing.
Next question down here. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Jessica. I'm curious because you said you started out in corporate analytical side. Why you decided to move into like entrepreneurship and helping startups?
It's a lot more fun. Look, corporations will pay you well, and they can give you, there's a lot of good reasons to go work at a corporate. They'll pay you well, and if you go to the right one, you'll make connections, and you'll also learn how to think about stuff. But what drives me in life is not money. It's actually building stuff where people value. And I think if you go to a startup or you start a business, you can determine what success looks like. You can determine how you add value, and you get to do a lot more stuff from cleaning up the after the employees but you get to live your life the way you want, and you get a much faster feedback cycle of what works and what doesn't work.
We have another question for the man with two names. Is that it? Yeah. Oh, way over there. Sorry, no. If you're not in front of me, I can't.